glass. It can be lucrative and yet challenging all at the same time when you're trying to figure out, what is it? How much should I pay for it? How much should I ask for it once I pay for it? And all that good stuff. So I'm going to try to unravel some of those mysterious questions you have about glass in this haul video where I purchased over 50 pieces of glass at one yard sale. Okay, let's get into it. Okay, this is one of my favorites because he's got birdies on it. See those birdies? Now, this is made by Dugan. It is a uranium glass. You know what that means? Let me see. I got the lights on, so it's a little hard to show, but I think, oh yeah, see that? See that baby glow? This glows under black light. Glows that really nice bright green that you want to see. Yes, yes, yes. If I was in the dark, this thing would be, ooh, like even just bringing it down here where you can't see. Really glowy. I like it. This was made in the 1920s. Yes, there actually is, if not uranium, which they did use real uranium, but they also used, I believe it was magnesium that glows. And that's what, it's not going to hurt you. I wouldn't eat out of it, but it's not going to hurt you to handle it, to store it, to sell it. But, you know, look at those cute birdies. This guy, unfortunately, is still only worth about $30. Now we're going to get into some of the opalescent glass pieces. And opalescence is when the item they are making is starting to cool, they reheat it, and this causes this milky white opaqueness to form in the places that they want that to happen. Now, it's different from the technique that companies such as Lalique and Sabino use to create their opalescent glass. I don't have any of those pieces. We'll talk about that another day when I find some of those pieces, which I love. But it's fairly easy to find opalescent glass out in the wild, and people really love it because it's beautiful. It's my passion, especially the blue. I had to pare down to the blue. Used to collect it all. So this piece here is by Northwood. It is the beaded drapes pattern, and it looks like, well, beaded drapes. Look at that. This has a really super, super light opalescent to it, which may actually make it a little rarer than one that is fully opalescent. And I haven't figured out if that's a good thing or a bad thing yet, but I will be listing this piece for $49.99. Yes, this, you can't see it as well as I can see it here, but this is a piece of true Vaseline glass. Now, Vaseline glass, uranium glass, sometimes those terms get intermixed, but true Vaseline glass is yellow, like the color of Vaseline, like a very pale yellow. Whereas the uranium glass that glows, I wish we could grow it, is green. So that's the big difference. If you're going to call something Vaseline glass, make sure it looks like Vaseline in color. So it does have uranium in it. So technically it is a uranium glass. And you can use that keyword as well. This particular piece is also an opalescent, which is kind of what I'm going to be showing you for a while. And you can see this is like a lot more opalescence than that last bowl. Now this is beaded pearl is the pattern. And again, you can see there's beads. So Had you just seen that there was these little guys here, beaded beads, whatever derivative, that was a common term given to patterns that had this. So you could do a search with opalescent glass beaded and go through the pictures and probably find this item fairly easily. Now the former dealer had this priced at $52.50. This is one the price has gone up because the glowing uranium glass and Vaseline glass are pretty popular. So this one will be priced at $79.99. Opalescent glass comes in many different colors, from blue, green, pink or cranberry, white, and peach or like an orange color. And this is a piece of white. This is by Northwood. This is the Greek key and ribs pattern. And again, you can see the Greek key in there. So this is one you could search, Greek key, opalescent glass. You're probably going to find this pattern fairly easily. The former owner had this priced at $40. Now she said as is on this one. So you always want to go along the edges of especially these crimped. This is actually what's known as double crimped. And by that, it means it was crimped, the big crimps, and then it was crimped within the crimps. So that's double crimped. And that's pretty tricky for the glassmaker to do. So that gives it more value. I can't find where this is as is. That's what's really funny. Feeling all over it, looking, oh, it does have one little chip down here on the very, very base. That's not really a deal breaker for a collector. It doesn't take away from the beauty of the piece. Now, I am going to price this one also at $49.99. I'm seeing spots, or are they dots? It depends on the maker. So, Fenton makes a pattern called coin spot. Yes, I have to double check that for a moment in my notes. And Northwood makes a pattern called coin dot. Now, it's a little tricky to tell the difference. These happen to be the Northwood. And one of the ways you can tell, and I actually happen to have a piece of the Fenton coin spot. See, it's very, very subtle. You can't really even tell on the camera here. But what I can tell you is the Northwood glass is a thinner glass, more refined, and the spots are not as opaque as the Fenton, where those spots are very clearly defined. Yeah, and they're just a little bit heavier on the dot. And it's also an opalescent technique. It's the same thing. They had to sit there and reheat all those spots. That couldn't have been an easy process. You can see why this glass used to sell for some really good money. I don't know why it's not selling for good money anymore. But the Northwood tumblers I'll be listing on auction at $29.99 as the starting price. And the Fenton hat vase I'll also be starting at $29.99. And let's see what they do. I have several of the white opalescent that I'm going to show you. This one is a Fenton. It is a basket weave with the open lace. You saw that in one of the other carnival glass pieces. So a lot of times these molds were the same mold and they would put different colors in and then use different firing techniques afterwards to get the different shades and the colors in the opalescent or the carnival, but the pattern will be the same. So that's the thing. You learn the patterns, you'll be able to spot it in all the different types of glass that were made by that company. So this one is going to be listed for $29.99, which is, I think that's a good price for that. And then, okay, figure out where to put this. And then I have a Fenton. This person liked Fenton. This is Optic, Swirl Optic. Swirl Optic is the name, and you can see kind of messes with your eyes a little bit. And this piece also, you can see some of the lines from it being made. Pretty cool, actually. I can actually feel. And you can see the seam from the mold on this one as well. I'm not sure exactly, probably something to do with how, they kind of maybe turned it after the fact or something. And then, even the mold produced glass still had to be finished off and shaped and crimped and all that stuff after it came out of the mold. That's where they added all the little touches to it. This piece I will list for $39.99. Then I haven't talked about this company yet. This is by a maker named Jefferson Glass. So Jefferson Glass has an interesting history. It's like all these glass makers kind of were in the same circles and trying to do their thing. So Jefferson Glass was founded by two guys who had worked for Northwood Glass. So they go off and they form their own company, and they produced the opalescent glass from 1900 to 1907. So a very short period of time. So all of the Jefferson glass opalescent, that's antique glass. Now, the company stayed alive until the 1930s, and then they went out of business. This particular piece, and sadly, I don't know why the prices are not better. I think more sellers need to tell the story on these pieces of glass as they get them and identify them. It's one of my pet peeves is we are driving these collectible values down by not just lifting them up at the value that they rightly should have. This is 100-plus-year-old glass. 100-year-old glass should have value just on the sake that it has survived for, well, 120 some years for some of it now and older. But on eBay, this pattern in the white opalescent, and the pattern's called barbells. I'm not sure how they got that. Barbells. And it was made in 1904, and it's only going for about 30 bucks. Makes me just want to hold on to it till somebody appreciates this glass again. This is a pattern. No, not this. This is a pattern made by Northwood Glass, and this is known as Alaska. Now, this is one of those ones where there's nothing about this pattern is going to tell you that the name of this is Alaska. It's just a little research and finding out. Now, sadly, this pattern doesn't go for very much. This one right here I'll put on auction at $19.99, which is about where it should be. Now, I also have a creamer, and I believe this is supposed to be a sugar, although I'm not sure, so I'm listing them separately because I don't know. So I'm calling this one just a little square dish, and then of course this is a creamer, and it's that same pattern. Fairly heavy glass, but it's really cool. I just love this stuff. The creamer I am going to list for $39.99. The little square footed dish is $19.99. And I might have lied on the larger bowl because now I lost it. Where did it go? Oh, I think I just found one of my missing pieces. For some reason, I didn't put the basket in. So actually, this one could be worth more than the $19.99 that I was saying. It was this piece that I'm listing at $19.99, and this piece $39.99. So now I'm a little more hopeful that that bowl's worth a little bit more. I'm going to go do a quick check. I'll let you know in just a second. So just a real quick search shows that there is none listed and none sold on the Alaska pattern bowl. So I may dig a little deeper, but I will probably put this up for auction with a starting price of $39.99 just to see where it goes. Now I feel better. So here again, we have the same pattern in two different colors and slightly different shapes. So this again is by Jefferson Glass, and this is called Many Loops. So had you just seen this kind of motif in here, you could have searched loops and you probably would have found this pattern. It's pretty prevalent out there, unfortunately, which drives the pricing down just a little bit. So the white one should be able to get about 34, and the blue one I should be able to get about 44. Now the blue, I will always keep the blue priced a little bit on the high side because it can stay in my collection until I get the right price, because I am very passionate about preserving the value in pricing on this glass. It's near and dear to my heart, and just the history behind it, and that this was somebody's treasured home possession. Think about it. Think about the family who couldn't really afford niceties like this. We're talking like back in the Depression era. People may have bought it before the Depression, but gosh, now you're going through the Depression and you're looking around going, oh, what can I sell to put food on my table? They may have had to give up their prized piece of glass. So I just kind of love to hold on to that history and really keep telling the story to newer generations, and hope that they will appreciate just what it took to keep this alive for over 100 years. I know my daughters get it. My glass collection will not be going to Goodwill when I go. I'm glad for that. Here's another piece with a very, very light opalescent. I'm not even sure you can see the opalescence on this. It's very, very faint. And I think they were trying to go for that effect from like the La Leak or Sabino. Now, sadly, this does have a little damage on the spout right here, but it's such a phenomenal piece of 1904 glass. This is by Dugan. It is the circled scroll pattern in a white opalescent, and I'm putting this on auction at $49.99 because of that damage. If it didn't have this, it'd be going a lot higher. So I might have to keep this one around for a while if it doesn't bring the right price, because I love it. Now, remember me talking about this beaded drape opalescent before and how light it is? I just found the other one that I have that is the normal opalescent color, and that's why I think that other one might have some value, because it's either like an error or it's a variation that doesn't normally happen, so it's more rare. But you can see with like the opalescent, the true opalescent one, it's still really beautiful, and this one will be listed at $49.99. This is just a very simple piece of Fenton in a hat vase with a crimped rim. You can see the crimping there. And it's a cased glass. Now, a lot of times, Fenton would then hand paint on what this would be called a blank. This one is not hand painted. This is just the blank. Because of that, it is going to go to auction with a starting price of $19.99, which is about, I'm thinking, where it should be. But then you never know. That's why I do auctions. And I just realized I did not explain what cased glass is. Very simply, cased glass is one layer of colored glass inside a different color of or layer of glass. And in this case, they used clear over a color. So sometimes that will happen. It's still cased. Oftentimes they'll use a white with another color. And so when you see those two very contrasting colors together and you can see the layers, that's called cased. This is another piece of Northwood, blue opalescent. The pattern is pearl flowers. And again, look at that. There's flowers and there's little beads or pearls. Another term that you could use when trying to find the maker of a piece like this. Now, if I was going to sell this piece, which I'm not, because I don't have this one yet, this is going in my collection. It's a circa 1904 piece of glass, and if I was to list it for sale, it would be at $59.99. But I'm not, so don't ask. This one almost had me stumped because there was nothing really I could figure out what to call this pattern. Now, I have to tell you the first thing that came to my mind. Okay, don't laugh. Okay, you're going to laugh. Come on, tell me what you were thinking when you saw those little guys that look like, yes, say it, they look like poop emojis. I'm sorry. And obviously the Jefferson Glass Company that made this back in the 1900s probably had no idea that we would have a poop emoji today. No. In fact, the name of this pattern is called Abalone. I don't see it. I don't see where this is abalone, but nonetheless, that is what they named it. It's got the two little handles, which is how I found it. I put in opalescent glass bowl 2 handles in an image search on Google. Voila, it came up, and then I could search the actual pattern. This also is a keeper. I don't have this one. Obviously, I didn't know what it was, and it's also one that I would put a value of about $60 on if I was going to sell it. I know you hate when I do this, but we're going to leave off right here, and I will come back with a part 2 that's thought I don't want to make like a big long video that you don't have time to watch the whole thing. So with that, go be profitable, make it fun, and I hope you find some good glass out there in the wild.